Welcome to another episode of Wild Wild Bets. I hope you're all having a wild week, and we're here to talk about some wild bets. So, uh, I'm your host, Furious George, and with me is my partner in Wild West Justice, Shane. What's going on, partner?
Pardon. Pardon.
Pard.
How's it going? Doing great. It's
Yeah.
been a wild week. We'll talk about it here in a second with the Michigan title, but it's been fun. And then just obviously sports betting all week. So big week upcoming for football. Probably best weekend of the year for the NFL. So yeah, a lot going on right now.
We really should have called this show "Pardon My Take." That's what we really should have.
Yeah,
So,
cease and desist.
uh, no, shush. Nope, we're not. Nope. Okay. All right. So, um, we have a lot to talk about. There's a lot going on, especially in the football world. Um, so, we're, a lot of the show will be NFL, but we have a college season that just wrapped up, and the Michigan Wolverines, the conquerors of the West, victors of the West, whatever it is,
Champions of the West. Have some
champions
damn
of the West.
respect.
Champions
That was
of
an
the West.
eye roll when you that wow. We're off to a
Champions
great
of the
start.
West, even though they play in the East, whatever. It makes
Back
perfect
when the song
sense.
was written, that was the edge of the world. Thank you very much.
But I wanted, obviously,
Civilized, as far west as civilization goes.
manifest
Actually,
destiny. Um,
yes, we
so
did Monday night.
I wanted to give you an opportunity to talk about it because obviously anytime your team wins a championship, that's a huge deal. And this isn't just like, oh, we won the Big Ten championship. Like, this is
Right.
the best team of all of college football, which is incredible. So talk to me about just everything.
Yeah, quick note on the betting side first, because it's a betting show, even though that's, furthest thing from my mind as a fan. But Michigan, super profitable all year, covered the spreads against Bama in the Rose Bowl and in the national championship. I won a lot of money betting Michigan this year because I was betting them as a fan. But some of my biggest bets of the year, as I look back at college bets, were I had like 5 units on them to cover against Penn State, 5 or 6 against. I had my whole account on against Ohio State.
Mhm.
They covered against Iowa in the Big Ten championship. They covered all 5 of their biggest games, including the last 4. So on the betting side, they were super profitable. As a fan, it's crazy. Last title any of my teams won was Red Wings in 2008. So we're coming up on closer to 20 years than not.
Yeah.
Just crazy. And for college football too, I know the sport's changing a lot now. That was one of the hardest titles to win. And it's one of those ones where there was a time when, so like 2020, Michigan was 2-4 in the COVID year. Harbaugh had lost like 5 or 6 straight to Ohio State. At that point, it feels like you're never going to beat Ohio State again. You know, logically that you are, but truly, there was a part of me that thought Michigan might just never win a national title in my lifetime, because the way the sport was set up, you have a huge divide between the haves and the have-nots. Michigan hadn't even been to a playoff yet, and the roster talent gap between them and teams like Ohio State, Georgia, Alabama just felt impossible to surpass. Like it felt like one of those sports where only like 3 or 4 teams could even think of winning a title. You had like
Mm-hmm.
Clemson, Bama, Georgia. So incredible turnaround. A lot of credit to Harbaugh. After that moment, you win the Big Ten 3 years in a row. You beat Ohio State 3 years in a row. Then the question was, okay, we beat Ohio State. We're getting to the playoff, but we got blown out by Georgia. And then we completely fell on our face against a TCU team we should have beat. Can Harbaugh ever get over the
Actually,
hump?
I think you fell on your butt.
Yeah, it was rough. And it's like, what do you do to even get over the hump? Do you replace your head coach? Do you just have to hope and pray that when the playoff expands, that shakes the sport up enough? But I never thought Michigan would win a title in the 4-team playoff era. So just incredible. Like it's defense. I think we're going to look back and say this is one of the best defenses in college football history. Some of the stats are just insane. Like they're the first defense to not allow a team to hit, I think, over 30 points in any game for like the last 120 years. A lot of the stats are like first team to do this in the last, 50, 60 years, which is in the modern era of pass heavy offenses. It's a lot harder to hold teams to those numbers now than it was in the 50s, so just amazing. Super impressive. A lot of seniors came back, or people who could have went pro last year. All the stars just aligned at the right time. And yeah, it's just like it's still kind of sinking in, but just amazing how you have these thoughts of like, I still go back and watch the highlights of Red Wings championship runs. And like for you, a big one will be like the Cubs. Like you're going to remember that title forever. You'll tell your kids about that championship. You'll go back and watch YouTube highlights of those games for, your whole life. And it's like, it's kind of sinking in where it's like, this is going to be, who knows? Michigan may win more titles. I hope they do. But like, you just have a feeling this is one of those ones that like I'm telling my kids and grandkids like, oh, I was alive and watched that. I remember back when I watched the 23 Wolverines, so it's super special. It's funny, the sport moves on quick like it always does. Everybody's already into the off season and who's replacing Saban and all this stuff. And I do the same when it's not my team. It's like, all right, I'm ready for next year, but like as the team who won it, I'm just going to enjoy it for as long as I can. And yeah, it's super special.
Yeah, definitely. I do think it's interesting because you said like, oh, I'll be talking about the 23 Wolverines for a while. Unless they win, unless there's like several, like
Right.
if they go on a run. I mean,
if you're Bama, you're not like, I think about the 2015 Tide all the time. It's like, that's one of 6,
right. Well,
but even if you do, you never forget your first, as they say. So.
That's true. But I was going to say, even like the Blackhawks for me. So the 2010 Blackhawks were not my first championship while I was alive. I was alive for a few of the 90s Bulls championships, but not not somebody that was retaining memories at that point.
Right.
And so 2010 was my first championship to enjoy, but 2013, 2015, you end up kind of grouping the Blackhawks dynasty into the 2010s Blackhawks. So and pros are just different because you have the ability to keep a core around a lot easier than in college. Like if JJ McCarthy declares for the draft, if whatever, it's gonna it could change drastically for Michigan, but it's special regardless. And what's interesting is I don't know that it actually gets any easier to win a national championship. It obviously gets easier to make it in the postseason, but there's extra games now to get there, which in some ways makes it harder.
And that's the part we're not going to know yet is like, okay, more teams are able to make it. Would I rather have my team make it 3 out of every 4 years instead of, 2 out of every 4 years, but the path is harder? Like which one translates to more success? And that's probably just going to depend on how much chaos there is. If you're one of these fringe teams, like Auburn or Penn State, where it's like, okay, I can make the playoff a lot more easily now. It's probably easier for you now because it was so hard to make a 4-team playoff. But once you're actually in, I don't know. And this is probably where it helps with parity. I think it's going to be harder for the teams who were already making the 4-team playoff. It's going to be easier for the teams who, had no path to really make it at 4 teams.
But the first round of that playoffs, by giving the top 4 teams a bye, like you're lowering that degree of separation, at least for that first round. So now the number 5 against the number 12, number 6, 11, so on and so forth, that becomes so 7, 10, and 8 and 9. That becomes really interesting. And then out of that, you get to decide who takes on then the top 4 seeds. So at least there's still kind of a process of trying to keep the degrees of separation as limited as possible. But
It's gonna be
anyway.
great. I'm super excited for just where college football's going. It's just fun, and it feels fitting that as we kind of turn this page on where we're at with college football, Michigan, Ohio State was the first team to win a title in the 4-team playoff. It just feels fitting that Michigan's the last team to win one. So like as we go into the new college football, it's like, makes it a little extra special,
Yeah.
So yeah. So yeah, super exciting. But yeah, that's all I got.
Awesome. Well, you mentioned Nick Saban got fired because Michigan broke him.
He
and so-
resigned, but got fired. Sounds good too.
whatever, you know what I mean.
Yeah, he's gone. Yep.
He retired. Retired, that's the word.
There you go.
But did you see people are putting cream pies at his
Oh,
statue's feet?
already enjoying the off season, are we?
Yeah.
I did see that. Yeah, a foot cream pie.
Yeah. I believe there
Crazy.
I believe I heard people saying there were condoms there. Somebody tied a get well balloon to the statue.
What is happening?
it's
Oh,
hilarious.
That's great.
But anyway, other job change news has been big recently, and this is mainly in the NFL. So we'll try to keep this brief because there's a lot that's going on. But I'll start with this: that after today's changes, it was stated that 8, which is a 25% or a quarter of the teams in the NFL, are having a head coaching change this offseason. At this point, I would assume we've seen the end of the firings unless there's a team in the postseason that underperforms.
I think it's interesting. There's a couple I've wondered about in the postseason. Like if McCarthy gets embarrassed,
McCarthy's
and
the main
loses,
one.
There's a
Yeah.
couple that are,
Sean McDermott's the
somebody
other one
talk-
that's been rumored. Too.
Yep. McDermott. I heard somebody talk about McDaniel. Is that his name? And
Yeah.
in Miami. It's like I don't think that's.
I
a
don't
stretch.
understand the McDaniel hate, honestly. Like people,
They just
is it
think-
just because he lost the division to the Bills? Like,
I haven't heard anybody who's like super plugged in who's thought that, but the thought is just he's a kind of a gimmicky, like if it's not working, a big personality might grate on you a little bit. The owner,
their offense has been great for the
the
past
offense has
2
been
years.
good, but like, is it too finesse? You
Oh,
lose to, if you lose another cold weather game after you just lost to the Bills to lose the division. I don't know. I don't think there's any credibility to it, but I heard that today. I was like, that'd be a big name to be gone. But
well,
there's been other
we
big
wanna
names
talk-
I didn't think would be gone too. So
we're going to talk about betting here, but I mean, hey, Kansas City and Miami in Kansas City when the wind chill's supposed to be -30. And basically, the National Weather
Good luck.
Service is recommending nobody be outside, but the NFL said we're not rescheduling the game.
Yeah.
So
the NFL waits for no one.
yeah, that's right.
Another one would
Um,
be, speaking of that game, does Andy Reid, he's now the oldest coach in football. Would he ever just walk away? I don't know.
Eh,
He
I don't-
wouldn't be fired for sure,
I don't
but
think so.
would he walk away? I don't know.
And then Matt Nagy take over.
Oh my.
Probably what would happen. Just saying. Anyway, so all that to say, there could still be a couple changes as far as postseason teams go,
Mhm.
but it would, as far as what we know, there's been a quarter of the coaches gone. So let's see if we can list these off. This goes back into the regular season. So help me come up with a list of 8 here. So we have Frank Reich, who was fired from the Carolina Panthers. I believe he was the first one to be fired. And then we had Josh
So,
McDaniel from the Raiders.
I could, to
who
make
was
this
fired.
interesting, I've got all.
Oh, you want to see if I can name them?
So can you hear me? I think we hit a delay.
Yeah, you want to
Well,
see if
I
I
was
can
going to
name
say
them?
that, or you could do that, or what I was looking at here was I have a ranking from let me see, USA Today Sports, where they rank the 8 head coaching jobs that are open. So do you want me to list them in the order they rank them?
No, I want to guess them. Do you have the list of the ones I can guess?
All right, you guess.
Okay,
I've got.
so I said Frank
yeah, I'll have
Reich,
to scroll up and down through this.
Frank Reich and Josh McDaniel.
Yep.
Okay. Ron
Sorry, I have to
Rivera,
move up and down here. Yep.
Mike Vrabel,
Mm-hmm.
Pete Carroll, and Bill Belichick, which were the most recent ones. So is that
Yep.
6?
So, yep. You got 6.
Uh, all right, hold on. I gotta think through the divisions here. Arthur Smith
Mm-hmm.
from Falcons. And uh,
AFC.
oh yeah, I got Brandon Staley. Yeah, Brandon Staley.
Yep.
Is that 8 or
Yeah.
is that
So
7?
that's the 8. Yep.
Yeah. So okay, so then what is the ranking then? How do they rank them?
Sorry, I think I hit a delay there, but I think instead of going through all of them, I'll just name a couple of these that are at the top. They have the Chargers at number 1. I don't think that's my first choice, but they do have the quarterback already. So Justin Herbert locked in long term does make that an appealing job. Salary cap and stuff. They're an aging team though, and not in a great cap situation. They have the Commanders here at number 2. I think that's the best spot. New ownership. You have a GM who seems like he may know what he's doing. You have everything you need. Not everything you need there, but you have a few bright spots on the roster.
They're looking for a GM.
Is their owner acting GM too or no?
Maybe currently, but they're
Okay.
they're interviewing the Bears assistant GM Ian Cunningham. He's a finalist for the GM's
Okay.
job.
That'd be interesting because you'd get a compensatory pick, I'm guessing. But
We get
yeah,
2 third rounders if he gets hired.
yeah. So okay, GM pending there, but they're the second pick, right, in the draft. So chance to get your quarterback. You have some young pieces there, McLaurin. They have the Falcons at number 3.
Yeah.
I mean, they have some weapons. You would need a quarterback there too, and their pick's not as high. Seahawks are here at 4. I think that should be like 1 or 2. That roster is pretty good. They've had a really good couple of last drafts. Geno Smith, I know you at some point you need to move from him, but he's definitely at least serviceable.
Right.
So I think you could draft a guy like Penix or Bo Nix or something like that, and
Doesn't
like let them
Penix
sit
just
for a year.
scream Seattle?
It just feels like it, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And you're pairing him if you bring somebody in. I know Metcalf's been unhappy, but I think a lot of that was with Carroll. So like if you can keep him long term, I think that's actually a really good situation. So yeah, lots of options. But like if I'm a say I'm Ben Johnson for the Lions, there's several very appealing jobs.
Personally, I think I would put Falcons and Seahawks. I think I'd put both of them above the Chargers. I get that Justin Herbert is
Yeah,
there, but
I
that the
agree.
rest of that entire team is aging and expensive
Mm-hmm.
because they've been
Yep.
trying to go all out these past couple of years to try to make it, and it's just not working out. And so to
You
me,
also have
it's
no
like
home field advantage.
you
Like
right.
the Chargers have
That's
no home field.
that's whatever in the sense that I feel like if they were really good, people would, like a lot of sports, people would show up. But I'm more just pointing out
Yeah.
like someone at work today, we were talking about this. Someone at work today was like, well, they have Austin Eckler. I was like, yeah, and by the time they're ready to compete again, Austin Eckler is gonna suck or not even be playing anymore.
Okay.
Like Austin Eckler
He's
already had a
already
down year
yeah.
this year. Yeah.
Mhm.
So and Keenan Allen, did he have a down year? I don't know. Like I don't
got
think
hurt.
it's as
Yeah.
great as everyone's pointing out. So I don't know. Obviously Justin Herbert is, but yeah. Falcons, you have a lot of uncertainty with quarterback, but you're drafting 8th overall. You're definitely within striking range if you wanted to trade up, or if you didn't want to get one of the top 2 guys, there's gonna be a lot of those other guys, Penix, Nix, McCarthy, maybe, Jaden Daniels, that are all be right there too. That you
Jordan Travis. Yeah.
yeah, and if the Bears do draft a quarterback, then Fields is also on the market, and a lot of people have paired him with Atlanta. So there's that aspect to it. And I agree with what you said about Seattle. I think the Patriots is interesting just because they have the third overall pick.
You don't want to follow up a legend. Like
Well, they
somebody's going
already
to take that
did
job.
you see they already hired?
No.
So so before the season started, they had already agreed with Gerard Mayo, who is an assistant with New England, that he was going to succeed Belichick. So
I
they
missed
already,
that.
yep,
Wow.
they're already set.
Interesting. I
It
felt like
is very
Vrabel was a
interesting.
good fit there because he's a former player and was
Well,
just let go.
it
That's
doesn't mean Vrabel won't go there.
Vrabel will be a hell of a DC.
I'm just saying he might. I mean, it depends on what coaches are available, and it depends on what these GMs think. A lot of people think that the NFL to succeed in the NFL, you need offensive minded coaches at the helm. But how many GMs think that? Because it feels like the league still goes pretty 50-50 on that, or at least 60-40 in terms of defensive coaches hired. So I wouldn't be surprised if Vrabel went to I doubt Washington because they just got done with Rivera. That seems like kind of the same coach, but
Yeah.
I could see Vrabel going to Atlanta. I could see Vrabel going to Carolina. But the big one out there is Belichick.
Apparently still wants to coach, maybe. Yeah.
I mean, come on. He's still technically within striking distance of Don Shula's win record. I don't expect Belichick to retire till he has that record, personally,
Yeah.
which makes it interesting then because who are you going to go to, right? So that's why if McCarthy and the Cowboys get blown out, immediately you think Cowboys because you're going to get you're going to end up with like, at double-digit win seasons probably a couple of years in a row, and I don't even know how far he is away from the record, but you probably only need a couple seasons of 10 wins or more to get that. And so that would make a lot of sense. Plus, he would bring his defense. Dan Quinn is rumored to be a top candidate for Seattle since he was the DC for Legion of Boom there.
Yep.
So I think that he's a great candidate there. I think Pete Carroll's going to take a step back. I don't really see him coaching still.
I think he'll be a TV, maybe do some of that.
Yeah, or at
I
least
doubt
for
he
a
goes back to
year.
college either because he's done all that already. I don't know. Yeah.
Arthur Smith, he'll get an offensive job somewhere, whether he's a quarterbacks coach or offensive play caller or a wide receivers coach or something.
Yeah.
Who else did we cover? Let's see. Brandon Staley. Brandon Staley is a great defensive mind. And I really think he's a genius with football. He just was not. There was so much going on with the Chargers that he was kind of treading water, barely surviving. So somebody that runs a 3-4 is going to pick him up, and they're going to have a big defensive jump this year. And I don't know enough about which teams run that. I know the Bears do not. I'm trying to think who else. Ron Rivera, he's done. I think he's toast. Maybe he coaches defense somewhere, but I doubt it. Yeah.
A short-term thing, probably.
Yeah. So yeah, it's really interesting, and it'll be interesting to see which. So obviously, like Belichick and Vrabel and Carroll are all desired free agent coaches now that they've been fired, but you kind of wonder about these other coaching prospects like Ben Johnson, Bobby Slowick's a name, Raheem.
You mentioned a lot of
Morris.
You mentioned this. Yeah, there are lots of defensive coordinators who are getting attention. So like you said, the assumption's always it's the young offensive guy. But you mentioned Quinn already in Dallas. Mike McDonald for the Ravens. There's talk about him being pretty much a shoe-in to get a head coaching job.
Well, and Raheem Morris, who's the defensive coordinator for the Niners, there's probably a lot of people looking at the Texans like, wow, they took DeMeco Ryans and immediately flipped it around. We could do the same thing with Raheem Morris or whatever his name is.
Aaron Glenn for the Lions has already been requested to have interviews, even though our defense sucks, which I don't get that, but all right.
Yeah. I don't
So
know.
it'll be interesting.
It'll be very interesting to track. And you know, the Bears re-upped with the greatest coach of all time, so I have no complaints on my end. So
Of course not. No.
yeah,
One team that should re-up, and it
wash your
feels like
hair
they're
just
not.
once, Matt Eberflus.
Jeez.
Sorry.
One team that should re-up, and it feels like they're not going to because they already made this mistake. The Raiders absolutely should just make Antonio Pierce the long-term
Yeah.
head coach. But I forget the other guy's
That
name.
move
They
makes
had-
more sense than Rick Bisaccia because
Okay, yeah, that's
Rick
the guy.
Bisaccia is a special teams coordinator, and
Even him though. I know there's
but
always
he's
people
older
who kind of
too.
play. Yeah, but everyone always plays for the interim, and I know it's not that easy. Antonio Pierce though feels like not only do they play for him, but like he's starting to establish a culture a little bit. He feels
Yeah.
like he might be like their version of Dan Campbell, like just a player's coach. Maybe he doesn't have any one thing X's and O's wise that he does really well, but he could build a culture potentially. I think he's earned a chance to come back, but knowing the Raiders, that probably won't.
Well, do you want to know who's also a players coach that can establish a culture that's been connected with the Raiders? Is Jim Harbaugh. So
That is true.
like that, and so Jim Harbaugh's been connected with the Raiders and the Chargers now. The Raiders, I think, have been connected way stronger than Harbaugh. So I don't know.
If I'm Harbaugh, I'd much rather take the Chargers job, but depends on his personal connections. I just would hate to work for. I know the ownership group for the Chargers sucks. I forget their name, but I would not want to work for that bull cut headed, owner of the Raiders. So I don't know.
Mark Davis.
Obviously, all NFL head coaching jobs are attractive because there's only 32 of these jobs, but there's some like the Panthers where I'm just like, if I could wait a year, like Ben Johnson last year turned the Panthers job down. It's like, if you can wait a year and get a more attractive job, I would for sure.
Well, he could still go to the Panthers.
I know, it'd be funny. They've already reached back out. I'm like, didn't he? I think he turned you guys down already.
Yeah.
But, all right.
The Panthers don't have a GM either, which that's hilarious, by the way, because so their GM trades for the first overall pick with the Bears.
Yep.
Then their president, the rumors are that the GM wanted CJ Stroud and the coach wanted CJ Stroud and the president wanted Bryce Young. And so he forces them to draft Bryce Young. Bryce Young,
Sucks.
Yeah, this year, I hope Bryce Young bounces back because I
like him, but he's terrible.
Yeah.
And I know it's year one. He was so bad that I'm not just like, oh, I'm going to wait and see. Like, I've already made my mind up, and it's up to him to prove me wrong. Like, he is terrible.
But so because of the owner's mistake, then he fires the GM. It's just funny. That's a story of the rich and the poor, basically. Like, I know that they get a lot of money, the GMs and stuff, more than you and I. But just the fact that the owner's like, well, I own the team, so it's your fault. You're taking the blame for this. Goodbye.
It's just such a great example of like money doesn't mean you're smart. Like you look how dumb David Tepper looks this offseason, dumping a drink on somebody in the crowd, firing a head coach. He brings in a head coach who might not have even wanted that quarterback and then fires him halfway through the year. He's fired like 4 coaches in 3 years. Another example is like
I think
Tennessee.
it's more than that now.
Yeah, it's like he just can't get it right. He just feels like he has anger issues and just like fires anybody at the slightest sign of disagreeing with him. Another good example is Titans, right? Like by all accounts, Vrabel was a well-respected coach. There's rumors now that one of the main reasons they fired him sounds like the owners wanted to keep him. Did you see the stuff about when he went to New England that he said he went to New England? He spoke at like their Ring of Honor or something. Whatever it was, he was speaking there. He was like, hey, what you have here is really special. As fans, don't ever take it for granted because it's not like this everywhere else. And the Titans ownership group took that as a shot at them. And the owner, I forget her name, she fired Vrabel like shortly after that. And the rumors are she was offended at what she thought was a slight to the Titans.
So she literally got her panties in a wad.
Yep.
That.
She got that's the reports, is that she was personally offended, and that's why she fired Vrabel. It's like that just goes to show you can be an NFL owner and have more money than most countries and still just be an
Sorry, he doesn't want to coach the Houston Oilers. Okay,
idiot. And that's not even a shot. It is
I
to
know.
say like, yeah, most places don't win 6 Super Bowls in a decade. That's just true.
And
It's
in
funny.
general, even if the Patriots had won a single Super Bowl,
Mhm.
that's like the most like player rah get the fans excited thing to say.
Right.
Like it's special here. Like every
He
team,
d-
like
yeah,
every single team says, like every single
right,
team when they win the championship, these are the greatest fans in hockey. These are the greatest fans in
right.
the world. Blah blah.
So
Anyway,
dumb. It's not a dumb thing to get upset about.
it is, yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah,
So wild. Yeah, already a wild off season and we're not even in the off season.
very wild indeed. Well, speaking of the NFL season, kind of thinking back through it, which there's a lot to sort out as we keep moving forward, is we have a wild card weekend to talk about. But before we get into that, on a different podcast that we had been doing for a little bit at the beginning of the season, we decided to go through all the divisions and schedules and things like that. We tried to come up with what we felt was a realistic um, outcome for the teams and the divisions and all that. So I believe, did you bring that paper with you by chance?
Oh no. I did not. There's a few. Okay, so we can either do this later and have exact win-loss records we predicted,
Yeah.
or I remember some of like the big outliers we had. So it's your call on that.
Well, let's just do it later. We got enough to talk about wild card weekend. So
Okay.
next week
All right.
we'll plan on doing this. Basically, we went through and we made predictions for the year in terms of division winners, wild card representatives, and we went all the way through the Super Bowl at the end of the year. So we'll do that next week. We'll have clarity on the wild card weekend at least to have a picture of who's left and how correct we are. So we'll go over that next week. So let's just talk about wild card weekend, and we can get into betting lines here as well. And I vote we just run through the games in chronological order.
Okay.
Let me pull it up here on my telly, as the British say.
The telly.
Yes. All right. So Saturday afternoon, we have the Cleveland Browns at the Houston Texans. And the Browns are 2.5-point favorites on the road. So it's an interesting line right there. The over-under is 44.5. What are your thoughts?
I haven't dug into these enough to have great leans on over and unders. So a lot of these I'm not going to have a take on the total. I will say general rule is I always lean unders. It's just, maybe more of a sports pessimist, but so nothing here on that. I like the Browns a lot in the spot. I know they're on the road. I know they're on like their 4th quarterback, but Flacco's kind of having a career a revival there.
Renaissance.
And
the
yeah, and as much as I
Flackissance.
love a flag as CJ Stroud's super fun to watch. I love Nico Collins. Like that's a fun, exciting team. This just feels like one where, you have an experienced quarterback, an experienced head coach against a rookie quarterback making his first ever playoff start. I don't know. I'm definitely leaning Browns. This might be one of my biggest plays of the week. Honestly, you're under a field goal still. Yeah, I just think the injuries suck, but I think that defense is legit. Defense travels, rookie quarterback in a tough spot. So yeah, I'll take the Browns.
All right. Next up. Oh, sorry, my thoughts.
What do you take? Yeah.
Yeah. So
that is all.
I think I'm honestly 100% with you. The Texans are a really cool story, but NFL playoffs, you're talking about, a new level of competition that CJ Stroud has not been to before. Not that he can't rise to that.
Right.
But it's a whole new challenge, to a whole new hurdle. Flacco's been there. this Browns team has been there not really even that long ago with Baker.
Mhm.
And really the biggest thing for me is that Flacco's there. Flacco, the reason he's still a quarterback right now in the NFL is because of his success in the postseason.
Yeah, right.
I fully expect him to continue this resurgence on Saturday. And I would personally, I love the 2.5 number. I personally would be tempted to even take an alternate line at better odds.
Mm.
Um, I would have to look at what those odds are
You're
exactly.
saying like a 6.5 or something?
I'm thinking like 5.5.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm a little cowardly. But
Well, it's already minus
yeah,
2.5 here on FanDuel is minus 105. So that tells you I'd have to look and see where the money's coming in. I wonder if that's going to move to 1.5. But if not, if you already like the 2.5, you're getting close to even money. So
true.
cool.
So yeah, I'm completely riding the Browns, if you know what I mean.
Oh, riding the Brown.
Yeah. But no, I'm with you on that one for
Yep.
sure.
Cool.
All right. Oh, what do you think about the over under 44.5?
I got nothing on that. I tend to lean under just because Browns have a
Postseason.
good defense, and I think
Yeah.
they're going to try to run the ball. I don't know. That's already a
I
pretty
like the
low
under
total.
I like
Yeah.
the under in this game. All right. So next, sorry, I'm multitasking, which is never a good thing. Next, we have the Saturday night game exclusively on Peacock
On
or
the cock.
the Cock. We have honestly, speaking of cocks, it's the most dickish thing in the world for the NFL to do
Yeah,
this.
this is stupid.
Yeah. So the game,
Exclusively on Peacock. Fuck off.
yeah, and it's the Dolphins Chiefs game too. So like you're putting your premier team basically
Yeah,
on Peacock.
on the cock.
I
I'm not.
can't believe it,
You know
honestly.
how many?
Like
You know how many of us are gonna have to call our grandparents this week and spend an hour on the phone trying to explain what a peacock is and can I get that on my TV? Like, it's just an abomination. This is gonna be the most pirated game in NFL history, uh, and I will be
well,
contributing.
I haven't looked into it yet, but I'm already thinking about okay, how many screens can watch on one Peacock account? Because it could be
Mm.
if you get enough people
Don't
sharing it.
cave. No, don't do it. You're the reason we have these games, Connor.
I'm the reason I haven't paid a cent to them. Not for Notre Dame games either when they do stupid
Yeah,
exclusive games.
that's
I can't watch freaking
the
Notre Dame
Marquee
hockey.
Network.
It's exclusively on Peacock. Also, like The Office is exclusively on Peacock too.
Yeah.
Even though The Office is also owned by HBO Max, like Friends and The
Yeah.
Office are owned by the same people. Friends is on HBO Max. The Office is on Peacock. Guess what else is on Peacock to watch other than The Office? Nothing other than Notre Dame hockey and the freaking wild card game in Kansas City.
You don't want to find a Peacock original that was filmed with a budget of $45?
I hope they go full NBC. I hope they do. I hope
Yeah.
I hope they have Matt Lauer do the play-by-play and just go full. Yeah, Matt Lauer and Al, what's his face, the weatherman. Get them both up there. Have a really controversial, odd, what's in your neighborhood broadcast. Who cares? Just
Yeah.
be as peacock as you can be.
Cock it up.
Spread your wings, if you will. So, regardless, in this game, we have the Chiefs as 4.5 point favorites at home. The over-under is 44.
Gross.
Okay. Can I go first on this one?
Yep.
I'm very nervous about this because with what the weather reports are, it seems so obvious to take the Chiefs.
And the under.
Yeah. So the under is 44, which is similar to Cleveland Browns Texans. And I would have maybe taken the under anyway.
Mhm.
But the 4.5, so they're both minus 110 right now, either the Dolphins or the Chiefs. Is it a trap to take the Chiefs? That's my question.
It would feel like that just because of the number. I don't think it is. I think the Dolphins are in trouble. You're a Florida team traveling in the snow, but even that aside, you've got multiple injuries. Your defensive front's lost like their two best rushers. Mostert, I think, was out last week. I don't know if he's going to be in this week. Waddle's been missing time. I don't know. I just think the team's too beat up. And the Chiefs have kind of sneakily, I mean, most people have seen it by now, but like you kind of are who you are at this point. Their offense sucks, but their defense has taken a huge step this year. I don't know. I just don't see. I think this is going to be a game Miami really stalls out. I know it's like, oh, Tyreek Hill homecoming. Like, I just think the Dolphins have too many issues, too many injuries. I wouldn't be shocked if this is a game the Chiefs win, 17-3, like just one of those low scoring,
I would be very
ugly
shocked
games.
by that.
I'd like the Dolphins to win this game. I don't know how they do it.
Here's my counter to you. You mentioned Mostert. What about Achane? Is
he
good?
Back? Because
he's
been hurt. Okay.
Because if Achane's there, Miami has the edge on running back. And to me, that's the biggest piece right there. Because, would you rather put your fate in the hands of Pacheco or Achane? I'd take Achane personally.
If you're comparing running backs, maybe, but the Chiefs' defensive front's a lot better than the Dolphins' defensive front.
It's true. I don't know. I think it'll be a really interesting game. I'm curious.
Yeah.
I know they're talking about -30 wind chill. I don't know what the wind conditions will be like. I don't know how windy it'll be because that affects passing, obviously. It's a wild game to think about, for sure. So
yeah,
I would think in a similar. And as far as the over-under, 44, yeah, you definitely go under here.
And take it now, because as we get closer to game time, I could see this dropping to like 38.5, 39.5, because people are going to be more and more aware of the snow as we get to like the Saturday pregame stuff. People are going to start betting this under, in the afternoon.
Yes, chef. I'll place it right now.
Yes.
Done. Under 44, locked in. All right, Here we go. All right.
Same.
Speaking of dreadful weather and bitter cold, we have Steelers at Bills on Sunday at noon in Central Time. So this is interesting to me. The Bills are 10-point favorites. And the over-under is 36.5. It's just a big number. Obviously, the Steelers are rolling out Mason Rudolph.
Yeah.
And I think that's obviously and with TJ Watt being out too, that's the reason that you have this big number. I don't think there's any question that Buffalo wins this game, but 10 is that's a hard number to cover in the playoffs.
I can't lay 10 points in the playoffs. That's absurd. There's going to be people who do, and maybe they do cover it. I'm staying away from that. And there's no value in the over-under either. Cold weather, but it's 36.5. Like I can make that argument with the Dolphins Chiefs game, betting the under, but that's almost a 10-point difference. If you're mid 30s, like there's no margin for error at all. If you're betting that under, I just stay away from this game entirely. I have no interest in this.
Yeah.
This shows why, if you're the Dolphins, you cannot choke away that game to the Bills. Right now, you could be at home hosting the Steelers. Instead, you're going on the road in -80-degree wind chills to play the Chiefs. Like you cannot blow that game down the stretch.
Bills Chiefs at Kansas City in the negative wind chill weather would have been electric anyway.
Yeah, that would have been, both matchups would be more fun, because then you get Miami moving on, which would be fun, and you'd have two cold weather, scrappy teams who have a history. So thanks a lot, Miami.
Yeah, fire Mike McDaniel. Okay. Next up, we have in the 3:30 time slot, Central Time, we have the Green Bay Packers at the Dallas Cowboys.
Oh my!
Courtesy of your Chicago Bears.
Thanks a lot, Bears.
Yeah. So we've got the Cowboys are -7 at home, and the over-under is 50.5. Okay. I'm still dealing with my team and their incapability of beating the Packers like ever in my lifetime. And so as a result, I have found myself overcorrecting lately where I've been saying like I think the Packers will cover to
Right.
I think the Packers could win. All these things. Bottom line, Dallas at home has been unstoppable for like a season and a half at this point.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't see Dallas losing this game. Do I see the Packers covering 7?
No.
You don't.
No, I don't.
You think it's a blowout?
Yeah. Yeah, and it's partly hope, wishful thinking and hoping. That's just what the Cowboys have done at home. And like I said earlier, with CJ Stroud, he's looked really good. He's been really exciting. He's proven to be the future. But you're asking a rookie quarterback on the road. For
He's not a
Stroud, it's
rookie.
at home. No, but like first years as a starter. So for Stroud, it's a rookie with Love. And yeah, he's not a rookie, but similar logic of like this is his first playoff start, first big time season, first big time moment as a quarterback, and you're asking him to go on the road to the Cowboys. That's just a tough ask. It is a big number. That 7 is out there. I think you're going to see a lot of people betting the Packers. If I have to guess, and I haven't looked at this yet, they're probably going to be the most bet underdog of the week. I think that 7 is Vegas like setting a trap. I think that's a trap line. Vegas is trying to get people to come in on the Packers. I think Cowboys win this game by 14.
I don't know if I feel that way though.
This Vegas is trying to get people
dinner first
to come in the Packers, and I will not do it.
Take me out to Culver's first at least. Jeez.
Culver's is great.
So okay,
Stuffed like a cheese curd.
yeah. I honestly, I haven't made up my mind exactly on this, but it's yeah.
That defense too.
My heart wants to say Cowboys, but I've just been burned by the Packers my entire life. That it feels like if I do that, then the Packers are going to win, or it's going to be like they're going to cover and they're going to lose by like 1 or something. And the Cowboys choke in the playoffs all the time too, which is also my concern. But
the stat that I've seen is like I think it's like 8 of the last 9 games the Packers have went to Dallas, they've won outright. Which
the
that's
Packers
happened.
have.
Yeah, but that's obviously you're going back to the Favre and Rodgers obviously eras with that. But yeah, Green Bay's been really good in Dallas. I don't know. This is just a way different team. That Packers
it's also Mike
defense
McCarthy
sucks.
against the Packers, which is
like I know they've played better. I know Jordan Love has looked decent. I think you may be too close to it as a Bears fan. Like that defense sucks, and it's not me being a hater. Packers fans would be the first to tell you. Yeah, Dak Prescott might throw for 500 yards in this game.
Yeah, you're right.
So
you're right.
You're asking a rookie quarterback to go shot.
But that's why Fields is the GOAT,
offense.
because he put up 9 points on the Packers.
That's a good point. That's almost double digits.
Yeah, almost. How many teams can do that? So
I mean,
I'll tell you,
all of them.
15. There's only one other team that did not put up double digits on the Packers in the regular season, and that was the Rams when Brett Rippon was their starter.
Brett Rippon.
There you go. Yeah. Rippon and come in the Packers. Okay.
Oh my. Rip it. No. Jeez. This has evolved.
Speaking of Brett Rippon and the Rams, I think he's out on the Jets now, actually, but the Rams visit. What is this? Is this right? Is this the right copy where this team's never hosted a playoff game?
Yeah, this can't be right.
Yeah, what is this? The Detroit Lions hosting a playoff game in Detroit? Wow, it's
Stafford's
got to be a first.
It's almost like it's scripted.
People who said this is the first playoff game at Ford Field clearly do not remember the Jerome Bettis Super Bowl.
How could you forget?
The Steelers Seahawks 2006 Super Bowl, I believe. Anyway, the Rolling Stones did that halftime show. That halftime show was awesome.
That was good.
Uh,
yeah, the Jerome the Bus Bettis legacy game.
yeah, Detroit native retiring, riding out on the sunset. So
Detroit native come riding out. Wow. Yeah,
coming
this
out
is
on the sunset. All right, so
huge game. Yeah, Stafford
yeah,
coming back. Obviously, the narratives are off the charts in this one. Matchup wise, it is interesting. Lions secondary is clearly their weakness, and you've got Stafford, who has played pretty well for a lot of the year, and obviously has a history with the Lions. And Nakua and Cooper Kupp both
yep.
healthy and playing. Um, the Rams aren't a great roster, top to bottom. Um, their offensive line's not great. Their defensive line's not great. There is a concern here as a Lions fan that, you know, we've had trouble covering good receivers, and this is a good receiver duo. I don't know. I just the Rams are going to score. I think you'd look to the over maybe indoors. It's a 51.5.
Mm-hmm.
I think the Lions should be able to get in the 30s in this game. And I just don't know that the Rams can outscore the Lions at home. It's going to be a crazy environment. So just as a Lions fan, I'm nervous because of the narrative of Stafford never won a playoff game for us. He comes back and he wins in Ford Field for another team. Like, as a fan, that's terrifying. Objectively, though, I just think the Lions, top to bottom, are a much better team. I think the biggest X factor here against the Lions would be head coach playoff experience. Obviously, McVay, a lot more experienced. I just think the Lions, much better team. And that 3 kind of feels like a short line. So at home, -3, I'm taking the Lions.
Yeah, the narratives are off the chart because you have Stafford back at the Ford Field. You have McVay versus Goff. There's all so you got both Rams storylines and Lions storylines happening at the same time, which is fun. I mean, I wonder how many Detroit people will wear their Detroit Rams Super Bowl champs
Lord.
shirts to the stadium. So
There's been a lot of bars and businesses around Detroit. So the stadium obviously can't do this, but there's been a lot of sports bars around who've put up a policy that says you will be prohibited from entry if you wear a Stafford Lions jersey.
Lions
A
Stafford.
Lions Stafford jersey, you're not allowed into the building, which is awesome.
Some poor Make-A-Wish kid who was given tickets to this game that's the only Lions shirt they own, and now they're not going to be able to.
The team really should do a jersey swap. Like, you've seen teams who do that, where it's like, if you bring your Stafford jersey down to whatever tunnel, you can swap it for a Goff jersey. Like,
yeah,
I don't know. I just think that'd be a smart move.
But then how do you make money though?
I don't know. Promoting it. Yeah.
I'm just joking.
Then we can have a massive bonfire at midfield before the game and burn all the Stafford jerseys.
I think yeah, it's an interesting game. 3 is because it's inside 3.5. I like the Lions. I think there's a real possibility that the Lions end up winning 26-24 or 27-26, and it very well could be inside of that and the Rams cover. But it's a small enough spread that I'm willing to take it. And I think really what this is going to come down to is I do agree with you. The Lions have a better top to bottom roster. I think this game really comes down to coaching. And obviously Sean McVay is seen as a god in many circles of the NFL. And Dan Campbell, frankly, has to prove himself in the postseason. How quirky of players are you going to get? If you get into a situation like against Dallas where you get screwed by the refs on a call, are you going to continue with conviction on this 2-point play even though you're backed up more, or are you going to settle for the extra point at that time? Those are the things. How much is Dan Campbell reacting based on emotion compared to based on what's logical at the time?
Yeah.
So I think that'll be a really interesting thing to watch because we know McVay is all analytics over there. So yeah, I side with you on the Lions. I also like the over. So we don't really have that much diversity in our picks with this, but I think even if you weren't a fan, this would still probably be the game I'm most looking forward to watching this weekend.
Yeah, I agree. Just yeah, objectives. There's a few of these I really am not looking forward to at all. So at
Like
least
the
this one's
Peacock game.
yeah, like that one. I have no interest in Steelers Bills. The next one we're about to talk about kind of sucks. So yeah, Packers, Cowboys, Browns, Texans, Rams, Lions. Like to me, these are far and away the best games.
I actually think Eagles at Buccaneers on Monday Night Football is
Mhm.
actually pretty interesting. So,
I hate it.
okay, so the Eagles are road favorites by 3 points. The over-under is 43.5, and you have basically the continually declining, regressing Eagles against the pretty much like staying afloat Buccaneers
Mhm.
all season long. They really were just kind of managing. They didn't really have any like super long losing streaks or anything. They didn't really have any super impressive wins, but they took care of business. And here they are in the postseason, their third straight division title. Um, so obviously you have home field advantage as the Buccaneers. This is Baker's, I believe, his third playoff game because he played 2 with the Browns. So he has. It's not like he's bereft of experience there. Um, ultimately, for me in this game, I I'm probably emotionally going to bet the Buccaneers because I do like Baker and I would like to see Baker succeed.
Mhm.
But realistically, I don't know if the Eagles cover, but I do think the Eagles probably win this game. And for me, again, when I look at coaching matchups, Nick Sirianni versus Todd Bowles,
Mhm.
it's not like Todd Bowles has proven time and again he's not cut out to be a head coach. I'm actually shocked that they made the postseason this year
Yeah.
with him as the head coach. And
If they didn't, he might be on that list of 8 we talked about.
well, he's lucky that he's in the AFC South or the NFC South because that was
Mhm.
the weakest division this year. So, um, but yeah, so that to me is the storyline is the descending Eagles, the pretty solid Buccaneers, Sirianni versus Bowles. So yeah, emotionally, I'd go Buccaneers. Realistically, I'm probably going to go Eagles -3. The over under is 43.5. Probably go under here. Um, but those are my thoughts.
The reason I hate this game is because the fraudulent Eagles are getting rewarded almost by not winning their division. They get I'd rather play the Bucks than even the
The
Packers,
Rams.
or the
Oh,
Ram. Yeah, or the Rams. I don't know. It just feels like when you have a Mickey Mouse or division like the NFC South, you want to be that wild card team that gets to go on the road as the team, you know.
it's one. It's one of those examples where you would argue for the NFL having seeding
Mhm.
based on like the NBA does, where it's just the top 8 teams.
Yeah. Or you get a pick based on your seed or whatever, you get to pick your opponent, you know.
Yeah,
Like the first home team gets to pick the wild card. I don't know. It's one of those situations. It's not the end of the world, but it kind of sucks. This is a blind fire. I'm taking Eagles -3, um, because everybody's knows how bad the Eagles have been. Everybody's gonna take the Bucks and feel like they're a sharp. Like I'm a you know the Eagles could definitely lose this game. Like I'm going to be really smart and take Bucks +3. This is a classic buy low, sell high spot. This is the lowest you're going to be able to buy the Eagles. Yes, they have real problems. Yes, they're frauds. This matchup though with the time to prepare, the latest playoff game, I think this is kind of a get right spot for them. I think the Eagles pull away late, win this game by 7 to 10 points. And it sucks because I like Baker Mayfield too. It's just roster talent wise, there's a pretty big gap here. Um, I don't know. At some point, you think that would happen in the regular season too. And I think the Eagles are just not a very good football team after losing both coordinators. But I don't know. I've got to believe everybody's going to be betting the Bucks, and this is probably the best number you're going to be able to get a team like the Eagles at. So,
well,
um,
what's
I don't
pretty
know.
interesting is that if the Eagles win this game, most likely they're playing in San Francisco the next week. So you
Yeah,
already,
that's when they'll get buried.
well, in the divisional round, I'm saying you'd already have the rematch of the conference championship
Mm-hmm.
last year. It's just kind of interesting.
Yep.
So, yeah. So that's the wild card weekend. I actually, I mean, I'm always looking forward to it. I honestly am looking forward to all of it. I know you're saying you're not looking forward to all of it, but honestly, the game I'm most excited about, other than the Lions, is the Browns game. I think it's just really,
Mm-hmm.
it's
I
really
like that a lot.
interesting. And yeah, whether I pay for it or not, I'm going to find a way to watch the Dolphins Chiefs game. Is my plan at least. So, Mike, I had a thought about that too. Actually, though, I was because my thought was, well, I know a lot of people if they don't have something, they'll just go to the bar to watch it. How many
Mhm.
bars are paying for Peacock
I
to
don't
do
know.
that?
Yeah, it's
Because
a good question.
like you and I, we've tried to watch games even at a local bar by us, and sometimes they're just like, oh yeah, we don't have that. Like, oh, well, we're here to watch that, so I guess
Well,
we'll eat
a
and leave.
a streaming game is tough too because you usually have a screen limit. So if you're a bar
Yeah,
buying it, if
yeah,
you're on regular channels, that isn't a factor. But if you're trying to,
yeah.
what do you do? You know, I don't know.
I
Maybe
mean,
they have like a business version you can buy or something, but I haven't heard
I
of
don't
that.
know. I mean, if
Yeah,
they don't, I mean, that's something that maybe these streaming services that are doing exclusive sports games aren't thinking about is,
yeah.
oh, the bars, because I mean, yeah. Anyway, um, okay, let's do our shootout. I just simply put together the wild card games here.
All right.
Last week we picked Bills and Dolphins minus 2.5. The Dolphins were, I believe.
Mhm.
And if I recall correctly, you took the Bills and I took the Dolphins. That sound
I
right?
did. Yeah, I took the
Yeah.
Bills and I bet the Bills, and yeah, they covered.
Yeah, I think I ended up betting the Bills in the end, but I took the Dolphins in our game, so obviously I lost there. I
Yep.
do
So it's
not
your
know what
turn
our
to pick.
records are, but I want to say it's like you're in the lead like 3-1, I think.
I was gonna say 3-2. Yeah, it's close.
Three
We
to
haven't
two,
done that
maybe.
many of them, but yep.
All right. So this one is all the wild card games. Let's see what we get here. I think is it my turn to pick?
Yep.
Or okay. Oh boy. All right. So we've got Browns at Texans. Um Well, we kind of talked about this one a lot. We talked it up a lot. I'm gonna stick to my guns, my metaphorical guns here, and I'm gonna go Browns minus 2.5. Which
That's
I
gonna be
think
my actual bet, but yeah, for the
I know
purposes of this, I'm on the Texans.
it's a really interesting game because I mean, if CJ Stroud takes the league by storm,
Yep.
you could have a Texans victory, and
Mhm.
that'd be wild. That'd be real wild. So, um,
I will be rooting
yeah.
for the Texans. I'd rather see them win, over an
See, I kind
Ohio
of want to.
team.
I think it'd be kind of cool to see Flacco win.
It would be. I like Flacco, but just general rule, Ohio teams, unless they're playing the Packers or something.
But you got to think long game here.
Mm.
If the Browns win as the 6th seed, they're probably going to play the Ravens.
Oh, that'd be fun. A division
Yeah.
rivalry.
Well, and Flacco.
Flacco against the rate.
Yeah. Yep.
Plus, hasn't Lamar, as good as he's been this year, he struggles against division teams, doesn't he?
Does he?
I
Maybe.
feel like his numbers are
I
bad
know
against.
that Joe Burrow is yet to beat the Browns, which
Yeah,
is
it's
hilarious.
funny. Yeah. Huh.
So,
Cool. All
but
right.
anyway,
Good.
that's our show. So, thank you for listening. I hope you all have a great wild card weekend and you appreciated our betting talk or betting analysis, if you will. Um, and next week we'll have some more NFL content for you as the playoffs continue. So until then, yippee ki yay, mother betters.